Bonjour, France. How's it going, guys? We're going to be checking out a video that was recommended to me from one of the viewers. This one is Charles Perrault invented fairy tales, Cinderella, Mother Goose, Little Red Riding Hood, and Sleeping Beauty. So I think we all know by now that some of the fairy tales are, of course, a lot of them come from Europe. A lot of French stories that turned into fairy tales and a lot of German stories that turned into fairy tales. So we are, of course, on the French reaction channel, so we're going to be checking out the French side of things. Timeline is the channel for the original video. Links down below for that, as always, so you can, go check out the original video and whatnot. Show them some love. And thanks for watching with me, guys. I do appreciate it. Hit like and subscribe, and let's check out these fairy tale stories. The fascinating chronology of events from the Big Bang to modern humanity. Modern human history. Sorry, I had to invent the last part because it was too fast for me. Modern humanity would have worked as well, I think.
This edition of Timeline presents Charles Perrault, Mother Goose Nursery Rhymes, and Brothers Grimm Fairy Tales.
Brothers Grimm.
The birth of French author Charles Perrault, pronounced in French as Charles Perrault, is situated on the timeline.
Charles. So that's my name in French, because my name's Charles. Charles. There we go.
In the 17th century in 1628. To put this in perspective, Jacques Cartier began exploring North America in 1534, and the French Revolution started in 1789.
Okay.
Before Charles Perrault became famous for his well-known fairy tales, he was a writer of serious literature and a member of the prestigious French Academy, the pantheon of the French language. Perrault was born in Paris to a wealthy bourgeois family, the youngest of 7 children. He attended good schools and studied law before embarking on a career in government service, following in the footsteps of his father and brothers. In the 1650s, Perrault took part in the creation of the Academy of Sciences, as well as the restoration of the Academy of Painting. When the Academy of Inscriptions and Belles-Lettres was founded in 1663, Perrault was appointed its secretary and served under Jean-Baptiste Colbert, finance minister to King Louis XIV.
Okay.
In the same year, he became a Controller General of the Department of Public Works. In this position, as described in his memoirs, he was able to save the Tuileries Gardens for the benefit of the people of Paris, instead of exclusivity for the royal family. Using his
Heck yeah, so the people's gonna love the guy, for sure.
influence as Colbert's administrative aide, he was able to get his brother Claude employed as designer of the new section of the Louvre Palace. In 1669, Charles advised the king to include fountains representing ancient fables in the labyrinth of the Gardens of Versailles. He also produced the guidebook for the Labyrinth of Versailles.
So ancient fables. So does he base his stories on these ancient fables? So like maybe he's not the original person that came up with the idea, right? Maybe he heard these fables and then he started writing stories.
Printed at the Paris Royal Press in 1677. As artistic and literary advisor to King Louis, Perrault became an influential figure in the 17th century French literary scene and wrote several works about the arts.
Cool.
His opera treatise was one of the first documents of the literary debate that was later to become known as the Quarrel of the Ancients and the Moderns, which pitted supporters of the literature of antiquity, the ancients, against supporters of the literature from the age of Louis XIV, the moderns. Perrault was on the side of the moderns and wrote the poem The Century of Louis the Great in 1687. He argued that because of the king's enlightened rule, the present age was superior in every respect to ancient times, including its modern French literature. When Jean-Baptiste...
Was it superior, though? I mean, everybody always feels like the times we're in is the best the times are going to get. But it's like, back then they didn't have technology like we do now, so was it better? Maybe the height of the Roman Empire was better. Who knows? I don't know.
Since Colbert died in 1683, Perrault lost all of his appointments and was forced into early retirement at the age of 56. After this, Perrault decided to continue writing and dedicate himself to the education of his children. He had married 19-year-old Marie Guichon in 1672. She had 2 sons with Perrault, but died at the young age of 25. After writing epic poetry that showed his genuine devotion to Christianity, Perrault, at age 69, published Fairy Tales and Stories of the Past with Morals.
With morals. Why does it say with morals at the end? So this is the birth of the fairy tales. Okay.
Subtitled Mother Goose Tales, a collection of literary fairy tales based on French popular tradition.
So Mother Goose's tales. So it was Mother Goose was the one that was telling the tales. So the story of Mother Goose isn't this. This is okay. So did this lead up to, so then eventually he made a story specifically about Mother Goose? Because it seems like now the fairy tales are presented in a style of like, this is coming from Mother Goose. This is Mother Goose's fairy tales.
The book was celebrated because it was written during an era when fairy tales were fashionable amongst aristocrats, in sophisticated court circles, and in Parisian literary salons.
Okay.
Its publication made
So there was fairy tales around at the time.
Its publication made Perrault suddenly famous and credited as the main founder of the modern fairy tale genre. Although his work reflects awareness of earlier fairy tales, many of the popular stories that we hear today are told as he wrote them. In the story,
As he wrote them. So just the stories that's already been around. Okay. So then he just remembers these stories, puts it in a book. Before that, it was just verbal. You tell somebody, they tell somebody, they sit around, they tell people. Where did the actual stories originate from? That's what I want to know. Yeah, sure, it's great that this Charles Perrault guy done what he did. That's fantastic. But somebody made those stories up before him, and who did that? That's what I want to know.
he used images from around him and influences from his experiences and travels. Some were original literary fairy tales modified from commonly known traditional stories, while others were based on pre-existing folk tales written by earlier medieval writers.
Okay.
He also contrasted his folktale subject matter with details, asides, and subtext drawn from his contemporary world of fashion, morals, and culture. Following up on the spirit of these tales in 1699, he translated into French verse a Latin collection of ancient Greek stories known as
Ancient Greek stories. Okay, so these aren't all French.
the 100 Fables. Several of Perrault's tales, such as Cinderella, Little Thumb, Bluebeard, and Little Red Riding Hood, continue to be printed and are still well-liked throughout the world. Many, such as Puss in Boots and The Sleeping Beauty, have been reinterpreted, modernized, and sometimes adapted to different art forms such as ballet, opera, theater, television, and film.
But some of these are ancient Greek fables. The Greeks were before the Romans, right? Didn't the Romans base and model their empire after the Greeks? So we're talking stories that's thousands and thousands of years old, well before modern day France. But of course, he took it, he modernized it to, fit for the time period, customized it a bit. Like I'm sure he put some into it. But that's interesting. Very much so.
Many of Perrault's stories influenced the German versions published 200 years later by the Brothers Grimm in their 1812 folktale collection, Grimm's Fairy Tales.
Okay, so yeah, that's what I was saying. Brothers Grimm. It kind of, they mentioned Brothers Grimm earlier. Yeah, but it didn't ring a bell at the time. But I was in the back of my mind, like I didn't say anything, but in the back of my mind, because I didn't want to sound stupid, because I was thinking maybe I'm wrong, but I was thinking it was a German thing, because he had French and German that did the fairy tale things.
In their 1812 folktale collection, Grimm's Fairy Tales. As mentioned, the birth of Charles Perrault is situated on the timeline in 1628. In each edition, our timeline is presented in a simple manner that is easy to comprehend and fun to replicate for school projects. Charles Perrault died in Paris in 1703 at age 75. To put this in perspective, simply insert this event at the appropriate location on the timeline. This concludes our illuminating look at Charles
Right.
Perrault, Mother Goose nursery rhymes, and Brothers Grimm fairy tales. We hope you have enjoyed this presentation and look forward to meeting you again soon along the timeline.
Okay, well, I mean, it just opened up a lot more questions for me, really, but very interesting. Never knew anything about this Charles Perrault guy. He's got a great name, though. Charles is a strong name. So, anyways, thanks for watching with me, guys. Go ahead and do me a favor. Hit like and subscribe. I appreciate it. It means a lot. It doesn't take nothing but a second of your time. And you guys have a super fun, awesome day, and I will catch you in the next video. Take care. Bye.